All right, so we have the drum sounding cool. We're going to lump the percussion and the bass together. It'll be pretty quick. I think that a little bit of small room would sound cool at some of this. We're going to come back to the 808 because I have an idea for that in the bonus videos. I've got the groove muted for a reason, the MPC kick. Let's give a listen to that. Okay, that's how it was given to us. I think we're going to leave that alone. It's not really contributing anything heavy. We're going to move on to the tabla here. Let's see what we get. Okay. Let's pull in a little room for that, short room. Okay, a little bit goes a long way with that. Just give it a little bit of the same vibe. Let's go to the medium room for this one. I think that's going to work better. Try the chamber. Sounds kind of nice. I would almost like to hear, if I'm going to go with something long like that, I almost want it to be more impactful. I want it to be bigger, longer, but I don't know that I want to take the time in the mix to make the tabla sound amazing. We've got kick, we've got side stick, we've got toms, we've got all this other stuff. Not sure that it's going to be necessary. So I'm going to drop that chamber. Listen again. Sounds kind of cool. I like that. Gives a little bit of vibe. I'm going to tuck it back down a little bit. Move on to this one. Kind of already has a verb. Let's try painting a short room to the right. Okay, and so effectively all this is doing is pulling it from being hard pan left to be just a little bit more in that 75 to 50 range, bringing it in from far left a little bit. Let's come to this guy. And I would be willing to bet that's pretty much like the shaker. Let's select all three of those together. Let's try short room on that one on the side there. Okay, and then let's get a little bit fancy. Let's come over here and pull open the automation lane for, and again on Mac, that's Command Control click on the fader, and that will pull open that automation lane. If I hit mute and then call that up, there you go, unmute it, and it snaps to the top. Command Control or Control and Windows key. So I'm gonna mute it, and we're gonna unmute it. I'm gonna make it really loud, and again, this is just for the Bolero, if I'm saying that right. I'm going to put this at 0. Okay, and now I've got a good level on it. I'm going to mute it. I'm going to listen to this pattern. Maybe for that hit right there, we open up the verb, so now it's not muted. So let's hear that just soloed. Okay, it's kind of cool. Let's hear it in the mix, see if we can tell. Not bad, right? I'm not sure that I'm digging the the high end in that verb, but it's got a nice vibe to it. Let's try changing that from the sunset chamber to the plate that's on the side stick and the snare. Where did we put that one? I think it's down here. Drum plate. What was it? Excuse me. So now we've still got the automation, I believe. Yep, Pro Tools kept the automation for us. Levels intact. We just have a different verb, different send. Okay, let's check it. Nothing really happening there. Let's go check which was the snare stick verb. There we go. Okay, so wrong one. Let's send it to the stick verb. Let's check it in solo. I like that much better. A lot warmer. And I think it's safe to say we can crank this one to hear it. Oh yeah. Sounds kind of nice. Maybe back it off a hair. Very cool. I think that'll give a nice texture behind it. Do a little bit with the percussion. The shakers are a bit dry. Let's try that room. Mute it. Okay, and then I think we're gonna need okay, I'm going to automate this, and this is where I'm excited to be in the market for a controller. I would rather be using a controller for this, but we're gonna use the mouse. I'm gonna go to touch mode, and I'm gonna pull open this right here. You can see the sunset chamber is in the mix right here. As I solo the wrong thing, here it is. Barely audible, right? But then what I'm gonna do is feel it out and lift that up a little bit from in between bars. Okay, it's very, very subtle in the context of the mix. Let's see here. Cool. I kind of dig that. Add a little bit of character to the mix. I feel like we need maybe instead of the short room, let's go with the medium room. If we can hear those with the medium room. Okay, and I had the automation mode still on, so I'm going to put that back to read. Pull open that. Okay, cool. Let's get a vibe. Without it? With it? Yep, I'm digging that. If you didn't notice, I've got the shaker is actually one shaker. I duplicated the track here, duplication, dupe one, I was going to say. And then I've got devil lock, just locking it to sound like this. Versus this. Very dynamic, right? So locking in the dynamics here allows me to parallel process it, kind of like parallel compression in this case. And we get the transient from here. Get a little bit of that dynamic back, but we get the steadiness and the consistency from the devil locked version. I think I've covered that in a tutorial over at theproaudiofiles.com. Let's go to the snap. That one's got a verb on it. Let's see if I had that set beforehand or if that's built into the file. It looks like it's in the file. So we've got one here where we can showcase how I would, excuse me, remove their verb and use my own. So here's this sound again. Okay, that's built into the sound. I'm going to come over here to Isotopes Alloy 2. I'm going to pull open the Transient Designer. There's a couple plugins called, I think, Deverb, DE-verb for removing verb, de-essing deverb kind of thing. Transit designers work great, pulling out the sustain. Let's go here. We don't need multiband mode. We're going to listen. Okay, let's pull back some of that verb. Here's without it, with it. Cool. Pretty sweet, right? So now that verb's not going to spill in. If I didn't like that verb, I don't really mind that verb. But if I didn't like it, there you go. You can pull out some of the sustain. You're pulling out the verb that's built into this file, and then you can send it to your own space. Let's try the room. Solo it. And with some. Yeah, the short room works really well for that. Let's try the sunset chamber. That's a bit much for those little snaps. Let's try from sunset chamber. Let's go to the stick verb and see if that sounds good. It sounds good, but it's a bit much. That might be better. Let's try it from the back. Much better. Maybe even down a little bit. Let a little bit more of the transient come through. So there's some of the percussion, just how I might feel my way through. And actually with percussion, I will probably start with room and not necessarily EQ or compression. I'll kind of feel out how I want things to sit in the environment that I've set the stage for. But moving on to bass guitar. Bass is a tricky one. What I did want to mention about bass is when I use reverb most often on bass, it's with my live gospel mixes. I do a lot of gospel work, and they will record the room. They'll set up mics at the front of the stage facing the congregation of the church, and they'll capture that room sound. So what I'll do is I'll go in and I'll take those room mics and I'll take all the low end out. Not all the time, but most of the time I'm going to take all the low end out, and I'm going to recreate that bottom end from the room mic with sending the bass to a room that I create that sounds like the room that they recorded. It sounds a little bit backwards, but a lot of times these gospel guys will go in and track live, but then go back and overdub, and not even just gospel, but in live recordings, a lot of times they'll overdub what they did live. And so if the bass is playing a little bit different part, different note, and something clashes, I don't want that in my low end. So just to be a control freak and be OCD about it, I will recreate that. In this case, I don't feel like we have to do that, but let's take a listen to what this bass sounds like with a little bit of a short room. And it would be nice to go to a section where the bass is playing. There we go. Without it. With it. Gotta argue with myself there because I didn't use it on my mix, but I kind of dig it. So who knows? Maybe we're looking at getting some short room into more basses in the future. But I don't know that I would put anything too washy unless I was automating it for a certain effect. But a little bit of a short room goes a long way. Let's check out maybe further down where the bass is doing some more action. Without it. It feels like it's giving the bass a little bit, I don't want to say weight because it's not like a super powerful effect, but it's giving it a little bit of that natural vibe that we're using it for on other things. So I like it. It takes the bass from being front and center and it's only down the middle, and that sounds great in a lot of mixes, but it's taking it, just kind of opening up it a little bit and giving a little bit of space around the center. I'm digging it. I don't know quite how to put it. Let's check it in the mix to see if we can feel that effect. It's really, really subtle. You may want to take a couple listens to that. You may prefer to boost it, but short room sounds pretty cool on bass. I'm going to move on into the next video. We're going to get into acoustic and electric guitars.